Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Karu News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan and Organ Donation India Foundation. Our endeavor is to bring to you everyday new topic. And today's topic is because today again we are going to have this youth conclave. So the topic is youth conclave on soft skills. Soft skills, also known as common skills or core skills, are skills able in all professions. These include critical thinking, problem solving, public speaking, professional writing, teamwork, digital literacy, leadership, professional attitude, work ethic, career management, and intercultural fluency. This is in contrast to hard skills, which are specific to individual professions. The word skill highlights the practical function. The term alone has a broad meaning and describes a particular ability to complete tasks ranging from easier ones like learning how to kick a ball to harder ones like learning to be creative. In this specific instance, the word skill has to be interpreted as the ability to master hardly controlled actions. And to discuss this very, very important topic and to give the answers to all the youth guests who are there today, I would like to invite and introduce our two chief guests. And we are having 19 youth guests with us today from all over India. So first, I would like to invite and introduce my first chief guest, and he is Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran is the former visiting professor IIM Lucknow and University of Texas at Dallas, USA. He is the senior director of Don Bosco Group, Bengaluru. He is the founder of Dr. Sharan Consultancy, California, USA. He is the director of Aldo Private Limited, New Delhi. He has done his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad in 1980. He did PhD in 1986. He started teaching and researching business and entrepreneurship since 1984. He published research papers in reputed journals, international seminar proceedings, and chapters in books of readings. He started academic administration phase as dean in 1997, rising to executive director, controlling management and engineering institutes in 2007. Her Highness Governor of Karnataka nominated Dr. Sharan to the Senate of Bangalore University in recognition of his distinguished academic contributions. He was visiting professor to the University of Texas at Dallas from 2012 to 2019. He also visited Washington State University and President University Indonesia on the invitation of the Dean Faculty of Business in 2018. He innovated and implemented a unique model to double the turnover with existing infrastructure in one accounting year. He is co-promoter of Institute of Family Business Management Society. He is honorary director of NCR Delhi-based high-tech B2B digital startup. He is also co-founder of OWGI Foundation, which promotes social entrepreneurship ventures. Welcome, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran on our show. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, as you know, today our topic is soft skills, and there is a youth conclave. We have about 19 youths joining with us. So we would like to know first your views about soft skills. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. Thank you, Professor Lakshmi, to agree to be my co-partner in this important deliberation. Soft skills is like an ocean, and it has lots of mysteries in it. In the beautiful introduction Mr. Goel presented, the whole ocean was filled, so to speak, in a bottle. To present my view, what I want to do is perform an experiment right before you. Here is a glass. It is empty. Let me fill it with water. So this is now filled with water. Now, let me take this laughing Buddha and immerse him in this water. He is at the bottom. If I ask you to fish out the Buddha from water, you will need your soft skill at its best. Because Buddha, when you look from the top down in the glass, is not where you see him. You will need a first-class knowledge of physics, the chapter on light, which will teach you a concept called refraction. When light travels from one medium with a different density and enters into another medium, water, with different density, it bends. And that is the concept of refraction. In the world, the air is our mind and the water is the real universe. When a thought travels from my mind into the real world, it bends like the light does, and the Buddha, the facts appear at a different place. So those of you who want to understand what Mr. Goel said in his introduction, you will appreciate that much better when you understand this experiment. Then this tells you the object apparent is not object real. Myself with Dr. Lakshmi want to bring out all the aspects today in our a small 1.5 hour interaction with you. Soft skills are very valuable. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. An IT consultant was hired by a business person, both were ladies, and the owner had a retainer agreement with the IT consultant. One day, the owner says, I want to launch a software and I want to share it with my partners, business partners. So I look after the networking issues, you look after all the other. The IT consultant responded, no, Joan, please don't do that. Last time you tried it, you messed it up so badly, it took me 10 days to set it right. Then the owner suddenly felt uncomfortable. Slowly, she started cutting down the involvement of the IT consultant. And in due course of time, there was no work left for the IT consultant in the organization. Other people has started filling her role and her assignment was ended. If I told you financial success of an individual in life, and thereby total things which come from financial success, respect, honor, status, is going to be determined by the soft skill of yours, you won't have believed me. If I told you soft skill is not what the textbooks tell us, you won't have believed unless I performed that refractive index experiment. This is my short introduction. I hope today we are going to set new milestones, Mr. Goel. Dr. Lakshmi, always excited to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. And as Professor Saran has explained and even shown the water and the laughing Buddhas thing, so to explain more about the soft skills. Without wasting time, I would like to now invite my next panelist guest. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. And now I would like to invite my next chief guest, Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel. Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel is the Associate Dean of University of North Florida, Jacksonville, USA. She is a professor of information systems with an established record in teaching, research, and administration. She received her PhD in decision and information science from the University of Houston. Dr. Lakshmi Goel holds a master's in computer science from the University of Houston. She is a master's in computer applications from the University of Pune, India. Her research is at the intersection of technology, organizations, and human behavior. Dr. Lakshmi Goel has over 50 articles published in top-tier reputed journal and over 60 conferences presentations. She has received the Web of Science High Impact Research Award and Innovator in Education Award, and was named a mover and shaker of Northeast Florida. Welcome, Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel on our show. Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, you have heard what Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran has mentioned. Now, we would like to know from you about the soft skill. Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, please.
Hello, and thank you for having me here again. Dr. Sharan, it's always a pleasure to share a platform with you. So it's really good to be here. So in my current role, my teaching is now based on executive education. So I actually do a lot of professional development and executive training in companies. And so this aspect of soft skills comes up again and again. And the way I like to define it, and it's very close to what Dr. Sharan mentioned towards the end of his introduction, is that soft skills are the difference between merit and success. Soft skills will never replace competence. Competence you gain through your formal education, through your certifications, through your experience on the job training, and nothing can replace that. And that's what will get you the foot in the door, your first job. That's the check mark. That's the necessary condition for a particular job or a position. But once you have that job or the position, your success in your field, your upward mobility in your company, your movement towards management and towards leadership, that's where soft skills come in, right? So, and that's why I define soft skills as the difference between merit and success. And I'm sure we'll go into this a little more in the next 1.5 hours, but the way I like to break soft skills down is in 3 categories. It's how you think. And this covers aspects like critical thinking, having a positive attitude, problem solving. So when someone comes to you with an issue, if you put your hands up and say, this is not my area, it's not my responsibility, you wash your hands off it, you're not demonstrating that problem solving and critical thinking aspect of your job, right? So how you think is a part of soft skills. How you communicate, right? And communication is, believe it or not, it's very little about what you say. Only 7% of communication is actually verbal. It's the words. 93% is nonverbal. It's your tone, it's your body language, is how your posture, how you stand, how you look, right? So if you're slouching even on a Zoom meeting, that does not speak highly of your soft skills, right? And then finally, it's how you act, right? So how do you behave under pressure? Are you able to handle stress well? Are you able to keep your calm under stressful situations at work? If you notice the people in top positions, your CEOs, your C-suite, your senior managers, it's not that they work more number of hours. Have you noticed that? As you go further up, it's not that they're more hardworking, which is why they're getting more money. The reason that those people are in those top positions is because they're taking and assuming higher risk and higher stress, right? And they're able to do so with poise and with grace, right? So that's part of soft skills as well. So it's how you think, how you communicate, and then how you act. And those things will make the difference between, again, your competence, which you have to demonstrate through exams and through on-the-job training, but then success in your career and your upward mobility. So with that, I'll turn it back to Mr. Goel.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, for explaining about the soft skills again. And what one point which she has made is very important about the posture. Even if you are on the Zoom meeting, please see to it that you are attending properly without any, and it should be very graceful. That's is a soft skill according to Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel. Thank you very much, Professor Goel. And now, without wasting time, we are going to start our question answer session with our youth guest. So my first youth guest is Mr. Aditya Nehra.
Okay, my name is Aditya Nehra. I am BB graduate and now I am pursuing MBA from Kite Group of Institution, which is located in Delhi NCR. So I want to ask you that many of academically brilliant students fail to fetch a job from competitive market as they lack soft skill, what percentage of weightage should be given for acquiring soft skill in university general education?
Okay, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, please. Please unmute, Professor Saran.
Aditya, if somebody asked me to choose between breathing and eating, because only one of them gets 100%, I'll be in deep trouble. I won't live long. So to answer your question, soft skill and merit, both of them, as Dr. Lakshmi pointed out, are vital. Don't worry what percentage is soft skill. Don't be taken in by the wrong perceptions and communication as prevalent in the world today when we are teaching you business management. The Buddha is not where it appears. So what I would like to say finally is this: your merit, your hard skills are 100% important, and your soft skills are 100% important. It is not a 100% universe. It is a 200% universe for success. I'm sure Dr. Lakshmi will shed some more light on this one. Wait for her comment.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, would you like to add anything?
I agree with Dr. Sharan's assessment. You cannot substitute hard skills. Those are necessary. And that's the stuff that goes on your CV, on your resume, right? So people want to make sure that you have, the credentials for the job. But once you get into a job interview, right? And once you're looking for promotions, once you're looking for the next step, then your soft skills will be the deciding factor. So it's not one or the other. Both of them are necessary for success.
Thank you, Professor Goel. So thank you, Mr. Aditya. Now my next youth guest is Miss Archana.
Hello everyone, I am Archana Khomni. I'm doing my PGDM first year from International School of Business and Media, Pune, Maharashtra. So my question is, Dr. Lakshmi just said that communication is just 7% of soft skill. So if it's not the communication, then what are the total soft skills and what I can do on daily basis to improve my soft skills?
Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, please.
So the 7% is not communication versus soft skill. Within communication, 7% is verbal. So what you say is only 7% of your total communication. How you say it, your tone, your body language, that's more important. But communication as a part of soft skills is probably 1/3 of the pie, right? So the entire pie, it's also how you think and then how you act, right? And I would put equal weightage to all of this, right? But you cannot have one without the other. So you cannot say, I'm going to focus just on communication, not worry about critical thinking and problem solving, or I'm going to do one or the other. If you look at some of the top leaders in the world, right, people like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, right, they have very different communication styles, right? So it's not that there's one specific type of way you need to communicate, but it's the blend of these things. It's the interaction of how you act, how you communicate, and how you think that make up for soft skills, right? And you can absolutely create your own style. It can be unique to Archana, which is very different from someone else, right? But that 7%, people get caught up in what you say. If you go to a class on public speaking, what they will focus on is don't say and don't put your hands like this or don't. And what I have seen is that none of that matters. It's how you say it. It's not what you say. It's not what words you use or having the perfect grammar. None of that really matters. It's how you say it. It's the intention and the conviction behind how you say it that comes through in your body language and your tone.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Professor Saran, please.
Archana, you got most of the answer. One thing I want to say to you is daily actions that improve our soft skill is a desire to win the heart of the other person for a legitimate person. If the purpose is suspect, then it doesn't matter whatever we do. So assuming you have a legitimate purpose and how you win over the other person is the essence of soft skill. So if somebody tells you, practice to overlook the flaws of an individual, only try to dig till you find a good thing in another person. This is your daily exercise. If you do this in very short time, you'll find you are a transformed person with fantastic soft skill. Try this. Tell Mr. Goel, after due course of time, did it work or not? Is the medicine helping you? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sir, and thank you, Ms. Archana. Now, next youth guest is Ms. Deepali.
Hello everyone, my name is Deepali Tyagi. I am pursuing MBA from KIET group of institution, which is located in Delhi NCR. I would like to ask a question: how to screen someone soft skill?
How to?
Please repeat your question.
How to screen someone soft skill?
Professor Saran, please.
A screen?
So how to screen someone's soft skills? How to screen someone's soft skills?
I think if you have watched television shows, you will have found that acting skills are not the determining factor. The ability to connect with the audience, to create a fan club is that one. So how you screen is being very clear. What are you looking for? That is step one. Second one is what tools to use to spot presence or absent, low degree or high degree of that desired attribute. If you follow these two steps, you'll be able to do your work of a screening soft skill successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Lakshmi, please.
So I'm going to flip that question from the perspective of the person who is being screened, right? So when you interact with somebody, which of your senses first comes into play? Is it your eyes, your ears, your brain? What first comes into play when you interact with somebody? Your eyes, right? You see them first. So that's the very first thing, is how does that person appear? So it's only after that first thing. And if you've read some of the popular books by, Malcolm Gladwell has written a book called Blink. There's several books on just first impressions. First impressions matter a lot. And even though they can be false, it takes a long time to overcome those first impressions. So you can change your perception of your soft skills by communicating with somebody and by showing them your critical thinking. But that very first impression of your visual aspect, your aura, right? And again, it's the how, it's not the what. So it's not about what you're wearing or how thin or fat you are or how expensive your clothes are. It's how you carry yourself, right? It's your aura. And that's the first impression. So that's how you are being screened, right? The very first time you walk into a room or the very first time you shake hands with somebody, that's the very first thing. Then comes your communication, and then comes your demonstration of how you think and how you solve problems. So, you have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about soft skills.
Thank you, Professor Goel, and thank you, Ms. Deepali. Now, my next youth guest is Ms. Navya.
Hello, sir. Myself, Navya. I am pursuing MBA first year in BJIT institution at Aziz Nagar. And my question is that even time management is included in soft skills. So what we have to practice to improve our time management?
Professor Goel, please.
I wish I knew the answer to that. I don't do a very good job at time management. But time management is extremely important, and the further up you go in your career, it becomes more and more vital, right? So you have the work-life balance, but then even within work, you have to balance things that are urgent versus things that are strategic, right? So something might be due right now, but it might not be an important thing, right? And things that are due later on might be more important and might require more attention. So there's this constant balance between what is urgent and what is important. And then you also have to balance, your work life. The one thing I will say is don't fall into the trap of busyness. People equate being busy with being productive, right? If you're sitting and thinking about something, that is very valuable as well. Just because you're doing something on a computer and with your hands all the time does not mean that you're producing valuable outcomes. So when you think about time management, also make sure you have enough time. I actually put on my calendar time to think about things, because that's equally important as doing things, right? So it's not a perfect answer, but this is the best I've got.
Thank you, Professor Goel. And I am also thinking that now colleges should teach the time management to join on time the Zoom meeting whenever time is given. Professor Saran, please.
Dr. Lakshmi, the answer is perfect. And only thing that you are not saying is that it is an abstract guideline. If we were to tell Navya how to practice it, then all we have to tell her today is, Navya, don't only focus of making a to-do list. You focus what kind of items go on the to-do list. They should not be all urgent and important, or urgent and unimportant. From the urgent, not urgent, important, not important 2x2 matrix, we have to tell her, lady, prepare a not to do list as well. As Mr. Goel's peeve is, do not join 5 minutes late, do not join 2 minutes early. So equally vital, life has taught me in my this decade, that the not to do list is far more important, Dr. Lakshmi, than making the to-do list, and then they can practice everything you have told them. So it's a perfect answer there.
Thank you very much, Professor Saran, and thank you very much, Ms. Navya. Now my next youth guest is Mr. Srinivas Kulkarni.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank my principal, sir, HOD, and Dr. Satyakumar Garu for giving this fabulous opportunity to speak towards our speakers. I am Srinivas Kulkarni, currently pursuing MBA in Vidya Jyoti Institute of Technology, Aziz Nagar, Hyderabad, and hope everyone are doing good. My question is how to handle criticism, because wherever we go, criticism follows us like a shadow. I want to ask the speaker how they handle this criticism. Thank you.
Professor Saran, please.
There are two ways to handle criticism. The first is realizing that only the successful get discussed, and some of the discussions will be, where could things be better? So that is rational side of handling criticism, the thought level. The second one is emotion level. And I'll give you a practical answer which I have learned, life has taught me. If somebody is criticizing, it is that person's evaluation. If that person is right, it helps me. So I'll take the criticism constructively. I'll thank that person. If that person is biased or prejudiced, then I will say that it is his problem, not my problem, not lose my sleep over it. So, Srinivas, these are the two things I will advise you to do it. Young people find it difficult to practice what old people advise, but try as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Lakshmi Goel, please.
So one of the things I've learned, and I've been now in the higher education industry for about 25 years, right? So I'm older than I look. One of the things I've learned is the more senior you get, the harder it is to get criticism. So now when I receive criticism, I value it, because how do you know how to change or that you're doing something wrong unless you receive criticism, right? When I was younger, it was much tougher to handle criticism because, you get defensive and you don't want to change what you're doing. But once you get older, you learn to value receiving criticism. Another thing that I read a quote recently which really stuck in my head. People be friends with you, people date you, people marry you, hire you, fire you, promote you based on who they think you are, not based on who you think you are, right? So you might be extremely self-confident and you might be extremely self-aware of your skills, but if these decisions of other people are important to you, you should care what other people think of you, right? And so being open to receiving that, and if one person thinks a certain way, it's likely that other people will also think that way, right? But may not be telling that to your face. So keeping those things in mind and being open to change, being open to at least thinking about, why that feedback was received is extremely important.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. Now, my next youth guest is Mr. Mayank Chaube.
Hello, my name is Mayank Chaube and I am pursuing PGDM from ISBM Pune, which is located in Nanded, Pune. So my question is, how can I highlight my soft skill in job search?
Professor Goel, please.
It's really hard to do in writing, right? The best you can do is to make your resume look extremely professional, right? And it really pays to hire a professional person to look at it and give you critique on the resume. So that's the first pass. The next pass is when you actually are in a job interview, right? And going back to the answer that I'd given earlier, everything starts with how you are seen, right? Because the first interaction you have with somebody is how you're seen. So make sure you look professional, make sure you carry yourself well, you exude confidence, right? Then come your communication skills, right? So every interaction that is important to you, practice it. Practice in front of a mirror, even if it is something like saying good morning. Practice it in front of a mirror, right? It's not just the words, it's your body language. Practice how you're going to stand. Practice eye contact, right? Practice these things. Even if it's going to be a 10-minute interview, practice it, right? And if you are going to practice it with somebody else, practice it with somebody who will give you criticism. Don't practice it with your mother because she will only say, beta, you are perfect. Right? Practice it with somebody who will actually give you criticism that, stand straight, or, you're slouching here, or, your hand is too sweaty. So make sure that you are getting that feedback when you're, so that's one way to kind of make sure you're setting yourself up for success.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Professor Saran, please.
See, Mayank, I once was talking to my client who works for Tata Capital. He had interviewed a candidate for about 15 minutes, and he was undecided about the decision whether to hire or not to hire the person. So he called me up, and we set up a silent three-way conference call. In the three-way conference, I was silent. He was asking the questions which I had told him to ask. And after hearing to the question, we said, ask this candidate to send a video CV. So Dr. Lakshmi, this is now catching the fancy of the recruiters and the candidates both. The video CV came and we were able to see where the software skills are working for the candidate because it was a customer facing role. And we decided to have that person. So Mayank, this is how you can do the same thing and be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Saran. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayank. Now, my next youth guest is Miss Pranjali Sinha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pranjali Sinha, and I'm a first-year PGDM student at International School of Business and Media, Pune. So my question is, what are some soft skills required when you're working with someone whom you're not compatible with, like your team members with whom your point of view doesn't match with?
Professor Saran, please.
You see, if the person is compatible, if team member is compatible, then the risk of lack of soft skills is not very high because nature takes over. You are pleasant all the times, you are thoughtful, you are listening. The problem begins when the person is incompatible, as you mentioned. So I'm very happy you asked this one. And this is where your self-awareness and self-control will be the highest valued attributes, most helpful ones. Dr. Lakshmi has already answered why these are important. So I'm not going to the detail. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Lakshmi Goel, please.
So teamwork is one of the most important things and that companies look for, right? Because unless you're working as an individual contractor, you will be part of some team at some point of time or another. And you've probably heard the buzzwords of diversity and inclusion now. Every company is looking for diversity and inclusion. And it's not just diversity of race and gender and color, it's also diversity of thought and opinions. So you want people that think differently on your team, because that's how you get the best outcome. If everybody agrees on something, you're not going to do anything different. There's going to be no innovation, right? So incompatibility, you have to look beyond personality and emotion and focus on what is the message here, what is the idea, right? And even if it's completely different from yours, there's value to that, because then the solution that comes out of your team or your unit is going to be superior and more inclusive than if everybody had agreed on the same idea. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to overcome that emotional aspect, but if you're able to separate the emotion from the idea and the thought, that will help you work with people that are incompatible.
Thank you, Professor Goel, and thank you, Ms. Sinha. Now, my next youth guest is Mr. Pratham Avasthi.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Pratham Avasthi and I am pursuing PGDM first year from International School of Business and Media, Pune. So my question is, how far are soft skills important for building team spirit in a working environment?
Professor Goel, please.
I would say they're absolutely important, right? And you want a leader that values that soft skills, right? You've probably in some of your courses looked at different leadership styles, and you'll find that companies where the leaders promote soft skills and focus on things like building trust in teams, taking time for team building activities. Those kind of companies get much further than companies that just focus on competition and individual performance, right? So that absolutely matters in teamwork, and hopefully you'll be in a situation where that's valued as well.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Professor Saran, please.
See, Pratham, you are trying to understand how far important is the soft skill in team building. Lakshmi just said those companies who are doing their leadership correct are the ones who are succeeding, beating the competition. What I'll take you to do is take you behind the scene and see. When as a leader, I build a team, the first thing I do is select the people. Then what do? I norm them. And when I norming them, there will be difficulty. So there'll be a storming. And after a storming, we will try to find out the way to work together. Forming, storming, norming, performing. These are the terms. You will find these ones. And the good leaders know the value of soft skill, especially in the storming stage. Lakshmi very correctly pointed out into the last person to Pranjali that it is not important that I agree with team member. I don't take my emotions. I look at the ideas. Only then the group think problem is cracked. And that is the secret how the good team working leaders are the ones who beat the competition. It is sophisticated, very sophisticated. Listen to us carefully and see where the main point is. Best of luck.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Thank you, Mr. Pratham. Now, my next youth guest, I think her audio is not connected. Sarvya, please connect your audio, then I will come back to you again. My next youth guest is Mr. Rupesh.
Hello, Rudy. My name is Rupesh Tyagi, pursuing MBA from KIT Group of institutions located in Delhi NCR. And my question is how we can get soft skills and how we can use to problem solving.
Professor Saran, please.
You see, the soft skills are actually soft. So they are less skills and more soft, meaning thereby matters of genuine concern are 80% of your soft skills when you are doing person to person. If it is person to group, then communication is the one to do. So practice that. These two things are very vital. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Goel, please.
So my advice is to use every interaction as an opportunity to practice, right? So even the Zoom call, right? The way you've set up your background, the way you have the camera positioned, your body language, use this as an opportunity to practice, right? You might be called on a group interview in some company, right? Practice how this looks, right? When you have the opportunity to do a group project or a presentation in a course, pretend like it's going to be an actual presentation in a company that you work for and practice, right? So take every opportunity for interaction as an opportunity to practice, right? Only then when the actual time comes, it will be second nature to you to be able to communicate in that way, right? So you don't have to try hard. Like just on this call, I really appreciate the fact that Mr. Srinivas has a suit on, right? It's a small thing, but he's standing out to me on the Zoom call, right? So if I had to pick from all the people here, somebody that would go to a next round, I would pick someone that's professional looking on a Zoom call. So every opportunity that you have for interaction, use it as a trial run.
Thank you, Professor Goel. I'm also wearing jacket and tie. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Rupesh. Now, my next youth guest is Miss Sandra Philip.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra. I'm pursuing my MCom Applied Finance from St. Francis College for Women, Begumpet, Hyderabad. So my question is, how do we manage emotional intelligence?
Professor Goel, please.
So emotional intelligence is a very hot topic right now, and I teach about a 2-hour workshop on it. So I'll give you the 30-second version, right? So there's two aspects to it. It's self-awareness. So really knowing yourself, and you can do that by, some behavioral assessments. You've probably heard of Myers-Briggs or Strength Finders, right? So know what your weak spots are, know where your blind spots are. And then once you're aware of yourself, being able to manage that, regulate that, right? So knowing what your weak spots is not enough. How are you going to manage those weak spots, right? And then the same thing along the dimension of others. So being aware of others, right? And being able to manage the relationship with others. All of that together, and there's techniques for each of these things, but all of these things together come under this, very innocuous sounding term called emotional intelligence. But there's really a science to a lot of this. So thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Professor Saran, please.
Sandra, suppose it is a lucky day and Dr. Lakshmi agrees to add 1 more hour to her 2-hour workshop. The question will be, what will we tell you, Sandra? What we'll tell you is action planning in a workshop together. And what we will actually tell you is focus on yourself, take a questionnaire, sit in meditation, ask, who am I? And then after doing this for half an hour, change the shoes and say, how do others see me? To make it simple, in that 1 hour, the theoretical construct that we'll use is Johari window. I know myself, I don't know myself, you know me, you don't know me. The 2 by 2 matrix will be very valuable. This is how we go and work it. And that 3-hour workshop will make you really, really powerful in interpersonal dynamics, the heart of which is emotional intelligence. You will have mastered it in 3 hours.
Thank you, Professor Saran, and thank you, Ms. Sandra. I can see Ms. Sarvia now. Please turn your mobile in horizontal position, Ms. Sarvia. Unmute yourself. Yes, please introduce yourself and ask your question. Unmute yourself.
I'm Shavya.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Shavya. I'm pursuing my MBA from MLRITM College. My question is, what are the important soft skills a person must have and how do we improve them?
Professor Saran, please.
Thank you.
The most important thing is, even if you have to say something unpleasant, even if you have to say something you know will be disagreeable, how to say it without being dishonest. This is the most important.
Please, Sarvia, please, please mute yourself. Miss Sarvia, sorry, Professor Saran. Miss Sarvia, please mute yourself. You will not get the answer clearly. Your disturbance is coming from your side. Please mute. Professor Saran, please go ahead.
You just saw the demonstration how Mr. Goel did it. He had to get a message across, and the way he did it, this is the instance. So that's the answer to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, please.
So I think I'd just go back to saying use every opportunity of interaction as an opportunity to practice, right? So everything, the way you look, the way you act, the way you're carrying yourself, your body language, right? Because soft skills is not something that you can just list and say, you know, if I do these 5 things, I have soft skills, right? There's a lot of things that go into it. So just practice at every interaction that you can.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Thank you, Ms. Sarvia. Now, my next youth guest is Ms. Sally.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shaili Ambatkar. I am pursuing my PGDM from International School of Business and Media, Pune. So my question is that how should we adopt the situation where things didn't go according to our plan or the result went against our expectations? So how should we cope up with that situation?
Professor Goel, please.
That's going to happen a lot, right? That's going to happen a lot. So I think the going into any situation, knowing that things might not go according to plan will help you prepare mentally, right? So having a plan B, plan C, kind of contingency plans in your head, but then also using those opportunities to learn, you know, so that the next time around you can take those factors into account, right? But not looking at outcomes as failures, but as an opportunity to learn. And if you are able to respond gracefully, even when things don't go according to plan, people will respect you a lot more than if you are happy that things did go according to plan, right? So that comes under that, you know, demonstrating grace under stress. That is a great way to show that your soft skills are sophisticated when you are able to handle failure or derailment of plans gracefully.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Professor Saran, please.
You have heard this saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. What does it mean is, when the challenges are hard, best of everything in you is being called in service. Remember to believe in yourself. Most times we are our worst critics. Try to manage that is part 1 of my advice. Part 2 of my answer to your question is, remember the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. As Dr. Lakshmi began by saying, practice, practice. I think I'll ask you to keep on practicing serenity prayer and keep on improving your ability to judge where I have to be serene and where I have to bring in courage. That will bring the best in you, Sayali. Thank you very much.
Professor, thank you, Professor Saran, and thank you, Ms. Sayali. My next youth guest is Ms. S. Charita.
Hello everyone, my name is S. Charita. I'm pursuing my MBA at MLR ITM, Dundigal, Hyderabad. My question is, what are essential soft skills we need to improve in order to get success in our career?
Professor Saran, please.
I did not get the question.
Yeah,
There was too much of ego.
Ms. Charita, again, please ask the question clearly.
What are the essential elements of soft skills we need to improve in order to get success?
Just by looking at you, you got a disposition. So that's the essential element. You already got it. You don't have to improve anymore. Now the question is the day-to-day, people-to-people interactions. Try to check your impulses if you can. If you can't, don't feel guilty about it. This should bring out the best in you, Charita. And this is very personalized advice. I hope I'm right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Goel, please.
I don't think I have much to add, compared to what we've talked about so far. So hopefully you've gotten a lot of information already.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Thank you, Ms. Charita. Now, my next youth guest is Mr. Shubham Soni.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shubham Soni. Right now, I'm pursuing my PGDM from International School of Business and Media, Pune. So my question is, what are the different ways that we can improve our soft skill? And second question is, how we can make ourselves adjust in a particular
Second question next time. First question
Okay.
only.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Professor Goel, please.
I go back to saying practice, right? So every interaction you have, whether it's with a colleague, whether it's with a professor, whether it's with a stranger, whether it's buying a cup of coffee, right? Make sure that your words, how you carry yourself, and your actions are representative of your brand. So think of everything that you're showing to others as a personal brand, right? You're building your personal brand, which is your physical self, in terms of communication, in terms of appearance, in terms of how you act. All of that comes together to build your personal brand, and make sure that you are presenting that personal brand in every interaction that you have, right? And practice that at every opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Professor Saran, please.
See, Shubham, what you need to do is try to come across as a genuine individual every time you are interacting with somebody, either giving something or receiving something. That should be mother of everything that you're looking for. Keep in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Saran, and thank you, Mr. Shubham. Now, my next youth guest is Mr. Sunil Kumar.
My name is Sunil Kumar. I am pursuing MBA from Kite Group of Institutions, which is having its campus in Delhi NCR, India. So my question is to everyone is talking about soft skills, and soft skills are very necessary to every person's or an individual's professional life. And now I want to ask, do it have any impact on other aspects of life, or
Professor Saran, please.
Don't have any doubt. Software will impact every aspect of life, be it as a student, be it as a friend, be it as a romantic partner, be it as a business partner, every aspect is touched by soft skill. That's why they are so valuable. So I hope you have been listening to us seriously since 10:30 today. Hope they are helping you. Since you have no doubt anymore that they are impacting all aspects of life after listening to me, what we will say is, don't confuse superficial things for the deeper things in soft skill. This is what I wanted to show you through the glass experiment. Superficial things are where the Buddha appears, and real things is where in fact it is. With this, Sunil, I hope you will benefit a lot. Thank you for the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharan. Dr. Lakshmi Goel, please.
I completely agree. Once you're done with childhood, once you mature into adulthood, every interaction you have, whether it's with your parents, with your siblings, with your relatives, with your friends, with your colleagues, with your bosses, with your subordinates, your soft skills will be extremely important, right? So it's way beyond just your professional career. It will affect every interaction you have with any other person. And one of the things that Dr. Sharan has mentioned multiple times, and I think it really bears repeating, we're talking about, branding and practicing and all of that, but the core of soft skills is really authenticity, right? So it really comes from your core values, but it's about polishing them and making sure that people are able to see those core values and they don't get confused because you are not able to present yourself well, right? So authenticity is at the core of it, but you have to practice in order to make sure that you're coming across the way you really truly intend to come across in every interaction.
Thank you, Professor Goel, and thank you, Mr. Sunil Kumar. Now, my next youth guest is Mr. Vishal Khetan.
Hello, myself Vishal Khetan, and I'm pursuing my MBA from ISB&M Pune. So I would like to ask, when we talk about soft skills, we generally talk about leadership at the first. So I would like to ask Dr. Sharan and Dr. Goel, like what makes them different leaders, and when we can conclude that we have this quality, when we can say this.
Professor Goel.
I didn't quite catch the question.
Please repeat the question, please.
Yeah, my question is, when we talk about soft skills, we talk about leadership. So what makes you and Dr. Sharan a different leaders? Like what qualities we need as a leader and what makes them a true leader?
So leaders don't need a title, right? You can have leadership qualities no matter what you do in life, right? You can, I'm sure some of us have mothers who have tremendous leadership qualities, even though they don't have, the title of, a CEO or anything. So what makes you a leader is many different things, right? So we talked about merit, which comes from technical skills and your competence, right? Which come from your training, your experience in the job, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that is necessary, right? The soft skills part of it is your ability to work with others, right? At the crux of it, right? And there's a lot of stuff. And as a leader, that's pretty much what you do, right? Even a CFO is not sitting and doing financial accounting, they're leading people. So after a certain level, everything you do is a people job. It doesn't matter if you're a chief finance officer, accounting officer, marketing officer, you're not doing any of those functions. You're leading people who are doing those functions, right? So leadership, it's a part of soft skills, but soft skills are not just about leadership, right? So all leaders need soft skills, but people with soft skills, can be successful in anything that they do in life. And you'll see people that have those qualities in many different walks of life.
Thank you, Professor Goel. Professor Sharan, please.
See, Vishal, there are two types of leaders, all things said and done. If I distill entire leadership library, I'll come to two things. The first one is leader whose ego has grown so much, it has assumed proportions of hubris. I am everything as a leader, and you as a follower are a tiny ant. The other one is just the reverse. I'm leader because you are such a great performer. So between these two extremes, Vishal, lies the entire shade of leadership. You choose what you want to be. Each of them succeed partially. None of them is complete. So choose and stick to it, develop it.
Thank you, Professor
sir.
Saran. Thank you, Mr. Vishal Khetan. Now, my last but not the least youth guest is Mr. Vishal Vacheta.
Yes, sir. My name is Vishal Vacheta, and I'm currently pursuing my PGDM first year from International School of Business and Media, Pune. And my question is, what skills are more important when you enter in a corporate culture as a fresher, and what are their expectations from us?
Professor Saran, please.
The most important skill as a fresher will be your ability to listen actively and grasp the heart of the communication. Once you display this, very quickly you are promoted to the next level. When the second aspect of what Dr. Lakshmi says are her 2-hour workshop on interpersonal skills. How to give your best so that you receive the best from other people. Once you do this one, you will get promoted to the top level. And in the top level, what will be important is how to bring out the 80-20 working in all the people who are, because I'm managing managers. So this will be the most important. I have mapped the entire journey from fresher to the middle level to the top level by purpose, so that you see the context, which makes active listening the most important one as a fresher. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saran. Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, please.
So as a fresher, your competence is probably going to be assessed more than your soft skills, right? You have to demonstrate that you can do the job. The one thing I would add in terms of soft skills to what Dr. Sharan said in terms of active listening is accountability and ownership, right? So taking the job that you have and taking extreme ownership of it from start to finish, so that, you know, if things are not going right, things are not going according to plan, you find a way to fix it so that, you know, your boss has full confidence that you can handle the job. That's going to be extremely important, right? So just because it's 5 o'clock, you're done with the job, you go home, you wash your hands off it, or, you know, I've done my part of it, now it's in someone else's queue, I don't have to care about it. Those are signals that you're not ready to move on to the next level of your job. So taking ownership of the things that are on your plate, listening, you know, being open to feedback, those kind of things would be very important, at least starting your career.
Thank you, Professor Goel, and thank you, Mr. Vishal Vacheta. Now, I am taking the next question. Now, you have to ask only the question, no introduction, please. And now it's a reverse alphabet. So, Mr. Vishal Vacheta, please, you ask second question.
Yes, sir. What are the soft skills required for a salesperson in a market, and which are the effective on more effective on consumers?
Professor Goel.
I think in a sales role, you know, communication is really important, but keeping in mind that your body language will speak more about your intention than your words, right? So having that authenticity and the genuine intentions will come through when you communicate, even in a sales role. So practicing, you know, your body language, making sure that it's in line with what you're saying, will be very important in that role, I think.
Professor Saran.
You see, together with Dr. Lakshmi, we are trying to do the greatest possible job in limited time. So Vishal Vacheta, what I will add here is this. Communication ability, the body language are your capacities, competencies. How you deploy, for what purpose deploy, will make you a successful salesperson. And in selling, there is a process from spotting the prospect till closing the order and getting referrals. In this entire process, what you have to apply your communication competence, which Dr. Lakshmi mentioned, your command of body language, she has mentioned, is to elicit all the objections from the potential buyer. and then address them authentically. Nothing will stop you from becoming the star salesperson in the organization, whichever you are associated with.
Vishal Khetan.
Yeah. So we have seen many people get success and failures. So how one can handle the failures? Like if the one fails, he or she may get demotivated. So what the key
Professor
factor?
Saran.
Vishal, the question is absolutely simple, and I have a very simple answer. Remember King Bruce and the spider. He had to try once again by watching the spider, which fell down 6 times but climbed up 7th time. King Bruce and the spider. So that is my answer. Don't quit. That's the best way to say failure is a imagination, not a fact.
Professor Dr. Goel.
So showing grace under failure is extremely important. And the second thing is taking ownership, right? So even if the failure is not directly because of something you did wrong, it could be someone on your team, taking ownership and saying, we messed up, will go a long way in demonstrating your ability as a leader than trying to shift the blame somewhere else.
Mr. Sunil Kumar.
Yes, sir. My question is, how can we show our soft skills during a job interview?
Professor Goel.
How you communicate, how you appear, how you think, all of those things will come into a job interview, right? Starting right away from your appearance, right? How you carry yourself, your personal brand, moving on to your verbal and non-verbal language, and then moving on to demonstrating how you think, right? So make sure that if you're going into an interview, you have a chance to practice. There are lots of websites which will share the common interview questions. The actual answer doesn't matter. It's how you answer it that matters more. Keep that in mind. You know, a lot of the questions at these interviews, there is no right or wrong answer, but how you answer it matters. So make sure that you practice that.
Professor Saran.
Yes, continuing where Dr. Lakshmi left, it is not what you say that matters, how you say that matters. The way Dr. Lakshmi wants you to behave in an interview is you listen to understand. Be honest. Like we are saying, when we don't understand the question, please repeat it. So do that one. And then try to communicate with your words, with your body language, your most sincere response to that one. Don't try to be a smart in interview. Those people have years of experience. Try to be honest and sincere, authentic with them. I think success will come to you.
Shubham Soni.
Yeah, as a finance guy, is there any specific soft skill we need in a corporate world, in today's corporate world? And yeah,
Professor Saran.
As a finance guy, you have to realize you are controlling the lifeblood of the organization. So the most important interpersonal skill, soft skill that you need is empathy for the guy who has presented the budget requesting funds from you. Don't bring in personal considerations. Try to merge your interest with the organizational interest. With this soft skill, you will be a very good finance chief.
Professor Goel.
I would add transparency. Not everyone in your organization will be numbers people, you know, so when you're presenting to a board or you're presenting to people that are not as familiar with numbers as you are, keeping it simple and keeping it transparent will gain more authenticity than trying to complicate things, right? Showing a very elaborate or complex spreadsheet will just give the signal that you're trying to, you know, hide something or, you know, obfuscate something. So keeping things simple, keeping things transparent, you know, using storytelling as a technique rather than burying people under numbers will go a long way.
S. Charita Reddy.
what are the qualities an HR should have in order while selecting a candidate, what they are expecting from us?
Professor Goel.
They're expecting the whole package. They're expecting a good employee that's going to do their job, be loyal, demonstrate accountability, ownership, communicate well with others, right? Not somebody that's out just for a paycheck and is just going to come do their work and leave, right? And be a pain in their behind. So they're expecting a good citizen, a good organizational citizen.
Professor Saran.
They are looking for a lever, Charita. Archimedes brought the concept of lever. He said that by applying a small force, I can move the earth if you give me a sufficiently long lever and a place to stand. If you understand what I'm saying, you will understand everything that the people who are going to hire you look for. I'm talking about the genuine organizations which are going places. Their growth is fantastic. Their growth management process is fantastic. I'm not talking of, everybody and somebody. I'm talking of a special people.
Miss Sayali.
What should be our approach when we have to lead the team successfully through a sticky situation?
Professor Saran.
You see, the situations are creation of people and situations. As I mentioned to somebody, or maybe to you, I don't remember, I'm so sorry, about the serenity prayer. So serenity prayers, the things which I do not control, I accept it. Situation doesn't remain sticky. But if there are things where I need my courage to speak up to power, truth to power, then what Dr. Lakshmi has been emphasizing, you should learn what words 7% and what body language 93% will I bring to the table to make sure my courage shows through as a contributory factor, not a negative factor. If you achieve that, Sally, success is yours.
Professor Goel.
So when leading a team through a sticky situation, the concept of joint ownership is very important, right? So making sure that everyone will make a mistake. You will make a mistake. And sometimes your mistakes will be much costlier than others, right? Your team members might make a mistake. People reporting to you will make a mistake. That's not important. What's important is how you are able to emerge from that on the other side, right? So making sure that you have that joint ownership, making sure that you're working together in problem solving will gain your respect as a leader.
Sandra Philip, please.
So my question is, what importance does work ethic hold in soft skills?
Professor Goel.
Work ethic is extremely important, right? But it's hard to define. It's what do you mean by work ethic, right? Somebody showing up 9 to 5 on the clock, right? Is that work? Is punctuality work ethic? Is responsibility work ethic? So there's a lot of ways you can define work ethic. But being true to your job, making sure that you have everything we've talked about. You have courage, you take ownership, right? All of those things, if they play into what you define as work ethic, it's absolutely important.
Professor Saran.
You have to be very objective, Sandra, to answer your question yourself. Work ethics is like lungs in my body. If I don't take in oxygen, even though it is 20% in the air which I breathe in, it purifies 100% of my blood. And the whole detail of it, we are short on time, so I won't go into detail. All I'm telling is work ethics is like my lung functioning. Without that, so many things will not be possible. So never, never underestimate the importance of work ethics if you want a beautiful career.
Rupesh Tyagi.
Yes, sir. What is the difference between hard skills and soft skills?
Professor Saran.
The hard skills are the technical competencies. If I'm a salesman, if I know how to generate lead, that is the hardest skill. Then if I got a lead and I'm calling on a telephone, if my pitch is rising, then I must know that I will lose the prospect. It won't, listen to me. It won't even listen to my offer. That is software skill. I hope the distinction is clear. Expand this explanation.
Professor Goel.
So I look at hard skills as the necessary condition for a job, right? Without hard skills, you're not even eligible for the job, right? So you have those hard skills, it's a check mark. I meet the conditions for this job. They're necessary conditions, but they're not sufficient, right? So the soft skills adds that sufficient condition for success in the job, right? So that's the way I look at the difference.
R. Sarvaya. No, she's there. Please unmute.
My question is, if a person is lacking soft skills while doing a job, what problems they may face?
Sorry, please repeat your question.
If a person is lacking soft skills while doing a job, what problems he may face?
Professor Goel.
So the problems will come in terms of your mobility, right? You will hit a ceiling. There are people that have very, very good technical skills, and companies value them for their competency, but they are not usually put into managerial roles, right? They might get a role which is a technical expert, and that's it, right? So at some point they will hit a ceiling. So if your aspirations is to get into management role, you will face difficulty if soft skills is a weakness.
Professor Sharan.
This is a festival time in North India. Holi festival is there. There is very popular Amitabh Bachchan song. The song goes, Bela Chameli se sej sajaya, and somebody else sleeps on that bed instead of the legitimate person who should be sleeping there. If you understand the spirit of that song, you will be creating value. And if you are the person who does not have the software skills, then you will get much less of the value created to yourself. Others will be enjoying the fruits of your work. And therefore, please master the software skills so that you are the one who enjoys the fruits of your contribution. Thank you, Shabir.
Pratham Avasthi.
How soft skills impact our decision-making skills?
Professor Saran.
You see, the first step in decision-making is defining the problem. And most business problems are complex, cross-domain issues, cross-functional challenges, as we call them. Therefore, if you don't have communication competency, you won't elicit the contribution from the people in defining the problem. So right there, your future is sunk. If poor decision-making happens because of poor definition, nothing else will save you. So this is critically important. As vital as heart is in our life, it stops, life stops. So if software skills are not contributing, then end of it.
Professor Goel.
Yeah, I agree. So in complex decisions where you don't have one clear answer, sometimes when you need to make decisions, there's only one right answer. But once the decisions become more and more complex and there's no one right answer, critical thinking, getting diverse opinions, making sure you have buy-in from multiple stakeholders, all of those things become really, really important. Right. So it's not about what decision you make, but it's how you make it, your process, your transparency, all of those things become important. And that's why soft skills will be really important in those situations of decision making.
Pranjali Sinha.
So how can we prevent ourselves from becoming overconfident?
Professor Goel.
So that's where that emotional intelligence piece comes in, right? Really being self-aware, realizing how much of your competence is authentic versus inflated, is extremely important, right? And overconfidence is as dangerous as underconfidence, and there are lots of research studies that show that. And there's also gender differences in levels of self-confidence and all of that, but knowing what your true level of competence is and having the confidence to match that is important.
Professor Saran.
In the school, I was taught, I'm sure you also were taught, Pranjali, Nindak Niyare Rakhiye Angan Kuti Chhawaye, and rest of it. Do that one intelligently, and they will keep you from becoming overconfident, and they will also cure you of underconfidence. And then you'll be able to practice what Dr. Lakshmi said is the crux of the matter. Pranjali, it is very important to listen to genuine criticism. That is part of active listening. So this is the exact answer.
Mayank Chaube.
How can I explain the topic which was unfamiliar to me in the interview process?
Professor Saran.
Look here, it is a relative thing what I'm unfamiliar with. And therefore, first and foremost, you display the active listening competency. One of the things active listening requires is when you heard something, you paraphrase, restate it. So send back the question to the interviewers and check with them, is this what they meant? And then come back and tell that I don't know the whole answer, I know part of the answer. Can I offer part of the answer? Is it acceptable? These two-part solutions should work for you.
Professor Goel.
I agree. Rephrase the question, and if there are parts you're not able to answer, be honest about it. Trying to wing it or trying to pretend that you know an answer when you don't. Even if your words come out a certain way, your body language will very loudly and clearly say that you don't know what you're talking about. So don't get into that situation.
G. Srinivas Kulkarni.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Goel, for conducting this section. I would like to, my straight question is, some people are blessed naturally with these skills by birth, and why like that?
Professor Goel.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of research that talks about predispositions, right, in terms of soft skills. However, having a predisposition doesn't mean that you're good at it, right? There's some people that have genetics that make them better at athletics, for example. But unless you train and you practice proper nutrition, you won't be a star athlete, right? You still have to do all of that, right? On the other hand, if somebody's genes are not prone to be athletic, you can still train and have proper nutrition and be an average athlete, right? So yes, having predisposition matters, right? So for example, this is not directly related to soft skills, but just a fact, all the presidents of the United States of America have been taller than 6 feet, right? And that's not a coincidence. It's just because height matters. People associate height in men with leadership qualities. It's just, so does that mean that if someone is not more than 6 feet tall, they cannot be leaders? Not necessarily, right? You can make up in other ways. So yes, you're absolutely right. There is a predisposition. There are things that give you an edge, but you still have to practice it. And that means that even people that don't have that edge are able to use those techniques to gain competence and to gain advantage.
Professor Saran, time is very short now, please.
The answer is complete. Remember that the bird wishes to be cloud, wishes to be the bird, and therefore you should not confuse, you will get it. Thank you.
Miss Navya. Please keep your, yes, please ask question fast.
Yes. Can you suggest few tips to improve communication skills, as communication is important in
Professor
every
Saran. Professor Saran.
Speak from the heart. Listen more to your heart than to your mind. practice this one. Time is short. This should be good enough answer for you.
Professor Goel.
Improve your vocabulary, read, and practice.
Deepali.
Which one is more important for people and why, to be a good listener or a good communicator?
Professor Goel.
It's not either or. If you're a good communicator, you are a good listener, and vice versa. Listening is part of communication.
Professor Saran.
Exactly. Active listening is the core of it. Practice that one, communication improves.
Archana.
How can one balance between being aggressive and being a silent person, like introvert person in the conflict situation?
Professor Saran.
Draw a triangle. At the apex, write aggressive. At the left of the base, you write passive. And the third point is assertive. Learn about assertiveness. That's where the answer is. Thank you.
Professor Goel.
I agree with that, but also have situational awareness. You know, sometimes a situation might require one form of communication versus another. So gaining that contextual awareness will be important.
Aditya.
Hard skills can be easily defined and measured, while soft skills are difficult to measure.
Professor Goel.
Because they're based on a lot of things, right? It's not based on just one field of science. It's based on behavior. It's based on psychology, sociology, neuroscience, evolutionary biology. So there's a lot that goes into soft skills versus hard skills, like you said, are simpler and easier to define because they're field or discipline specific.
Professor Saran.
As we spoke in our last workshop with Dr. Goel, soft skills are qualitative issues, whereas the hard skills are quantitative. This is where the essence is. Go for that. Answer will be clear.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you all the youth guests and thank you our chief guest. And today's program is, I'm sure that today's program is quite enlightened with the answers given by our chief guest. In case if you have further questions, you can WhatsApp me. You all have my WhatsApp number. I will send those questions to this chief guest and they will give the answers happily. So thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global Karu News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se Samvad Saroकार News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, as well as was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor to bring to you every day new topic in our media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Tomorrow, the topic is dowry system in India. Yes, you heard clearly, dowry system in India. And our panelist guests are Advocate Jyoti Pawar, High Court, Mumbai, Advocate Deo Prakash Singh, Managing Partner, Mars and Mars Legal Advisor, LLP, Patna, Advocate Gagan Gandhi, Managing Partner, Niti Nyay Law Offices, New Delhi, and Dr. Namrata Shukla, Co-Founder, Kaizen Mantra, Trainer and Consultant, Muscat. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you all the youth guests for joining us, and thank you Professor Dr. Lakshmi Goel, and thank you very much Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, and thank you Dr. Lakshmi Goel for waking up. I think it's almost 2:30 there in the early morning. So thank you very much, and thank you all the viewers for watching our show. I'm sure today's program is very enlightening. If still you have any suggestions or if you want any good topic for the enlightenment of our youth, basically those who are pursuing their higher career, please write on any of our channels portal. Thank you very much.